Welcome back to TechMaker. This is Scraping the Web with Ruby Part 8. In the previous episode, we worked on cleaning up the data around the number of square feet in an apartment and the number of bedrooms. In this episode, we're going to dig into how do we try to clean up the neighborhood data. I did a quick Google search for the list of neighborhoods in New York, and I found this page, which is really just a list of neighborhoods. They're all links. You could, in theory, or not in theory, in practice, scrape this data from this page, which would probably be appropriate for this particular series, but since we spent so much time already kind of going through that, I'm going to take an easy road and just copy and paste this data and then edit it a little bit. So let's just copy everything here all the way down to the last neighborhood and then paste that into our code editor. So I've opened up a new file in my editor. I'm just going to paste things in. I've had a long day, so I feel like I'm slurring my words a little bit. Editor is the way to say that. I need to enunciate better. So we need to get rid of a couple of things from here. So you can see we have these text breaks whenever the page was switching into the columns were there. So we need to get rid of that because we don't want the actual high level data. We want the actual neighborhood data. I believe that is it. So I don't see any more breaks. Okay, so now what we can do, first of all, let's save this file as neighborhoods.rb. And let's say neighborhoods in all caps equals, I think we can do %w open parenthesis. And I think what that's going to do is turn this into an array we can use. I may have that syntax a little bit wrong. I've been working in a bunch of different programming languages, so I kind of lose track of some of the stuff in my memory, but we'll try it out and see what happens. So back in the terminal, I actually still have my same session running from before. So you can see I still have all my listings. Now what we want to do is say require /neighborhoods.rb. And now we should be able to say neighborhoods. And you can see that it took all of the, well, it kind of screwed up there. Anything that's two words got thrown into multiple things. We need to fix that. Also, Battery Park City is really one thing. Okay, so we need to fix that. So another way we might do this could be something like put an opening quote here, putting another quote here, and then do dot split, and then the new line character. And so what that's going to do is every time it encounters a new line, it's going to throw that thing into an array element. So that should work better. Let's try that out. So once you require something, you actually can't require it again. And so I tried to here and it said false. So you have to run load and that will reload it. So let's just hit neighborhoods and see what it does. You can already see West New Brighton right here. Before that would have been split up into multiple, and now we have everything put the way that we want it. So that's good. So the next bit of this is going to be a little bit complicated, and it may or may not actually work that well. I haven't actually tried this yet, so we'll see how it goes. I suspect that we'll have some percentage of things that will turn out okay, and then another percent that will be kind of messed up and will just be unusable data. So what we need to do first of all is we need to create a way to reset the neighborhood. So I'm going to add this little bit into the actual code a little bit later. But for now, I'm going to reopen the class listing and make a modification. So we need to say class listing, and then we're just going to say adder accessor neighborhood, and that's it. So now what we ought to be able to do is say listing equals listings.first, and say listing.neighborhood. Okay, there is no neighborhood listed for that one. Let me actually check that in and just mess everything up. So we need to do listings.map and neighborhood. Okay, I did screw that up by putting that adder accessor there. Okay, so we're going to have to rerun everything against Craigslist, and I'm actually going to jump into the code and make the modifications I want there, which will be easier anyway, probably, hopefully. Okay, so let's start by, well, first of all, since we're here, we can require neighborhoods. That should alleviate our need to do that in the terminal. We don't need these comments anymore. Pretty much accomplished all that. And I'm going to go ahead and do something that's going to make my life a little bit easier. I'm just going to paste in a default. So you can give it a URL that's different, but right now we're only ever running against that. So I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, so now we should have our neighborhoods. So let's look at how we're setting the neighborhood right now. So we're saying checking find content through result hood, getting the data, g-subbing away the parentheses. Okay, so we may have to try a couple of things here, but I think what we'll do is just start and see where we end up, which is my typical strategy. So we'll say raw hood equals that. And what we want to do is we want to essentially replace this with one of our official neighborhood names if possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say neighborhoods dot each do neighborhood. You know what? I'm going to say n because I'm in a method called neighborhood and I don't really like to have the same name variable, so that's fine. So what we can do is we can say if rawhood.downcase, first of all, we're going to lowercase everything because people are capitalizing things all kinds of crazy. You just lowercase everything. Dot index of in.downcase, let's also downcase that. Dot nil. So if not that, then okay, then so we have else. Okay, so let's talk through it. So we're saying if the string that was entered by the user, downcase it so we get rid of capital weirdness. If it has the name of the neighborhood in it, or so if it has it in it, because we're saying if it's not nil, right? We want to return n. Else return. Actually, I don't want to else anything, right? Because if I return something, I'm looping through each one, so I just want to return if I hit it. And I think that may do the trick. So let's try this out. This also might be slow. We have a lot of neighborhoods and we have 3,000 listings. So if we iterate through all of them, this may take a second. So there's probably a more performant way to do it. That may or may not be something I'm concerned about, depending on how slow it is, but we'll try it out. One other thing we need to fix is we're actually not setting this raw hood variable in the case where data is nil. So that's interesting. So what we want to do is actually probably, I want to say unless data.nil up here, and then get rid of that, tab all of that in. So that way I'm just guarded for the whole thing. That makes more sense. Alright, so back over in the terminal, I've cleared everything out, so we have a fresh start here, so we'll do IRB. We'll require scraper.rb, and I think I should just be able to say, scraper.run now that I've added that default. And this is going to take a second, so I'm going to go ahead and just pause and wait on it to finish. Okay, so that finished out, so I'm going to say listings equals underscore, and then I should be able to say something like listing, I'm just going to say L equal listings dot first, L dot neighborhood, and that is pretty much what I was hoping for. Let's run through all of them and see what we see. Listings dot map and neighborhood. Misspelled neighborhood. Okay, so running through all of them really didn't take long. So frankly, I am not super worried about it. One thing I might be worried about is it looks like I have some kind of weird data structure in here. So let's do .unique. I have a, what is that about? It's like there's an array, there's an array inside. What in the world? That makes no sense. Let's see how, if I do .count up here, there's 100 neighborhood. It's 198. If I do .flatten .unique .count, there's 198. That is incredibly weird. So let's do a quick test here. I need to jog my memory. So just make an array with 4 elements, each do n, and then we'll just return in. Let's actually make this look kind of like ours. So we'll say return n if n equals 3. Unexpected return. Let's just say puts in. So that's kind of what I was thinking. There's this return value here. So I think probably in some cases we were actually not hitting anything, and then it's returning the whole array and sticking it in that place. So let's go back to the code and I'll tell you what I mean, show you what I mean. So what's happening back over here is basically what we just saw in the terminal. So I think what's happening is if it never actually hits a return, so if it never actually hits this conditional properly and returns n, it's returning the entire set of neighborhoods. So in some cases, instead of putting in like, what you would like to see is it put in a nil. But it's actually saying, I'm going to stick the whole set of neighborhoods in there because I didn't hit anything to return. So that's a problem. So one way we might be able to do this differently is say, let's do something like this. Let's say neighborhoods dot find n. So we're gonna basically search through the neighborhoods looking for an n, and we're gonna find the one where rawhood downcase index of n dot downcase is not nil. That's a little complicated, but I believe that may actually work. And if it does, it's probably faster and it's so much shorter and smoother. So let's try that out. Okay, so let's start up IRB again, or you can just reload that file if you already have it open. We can do require scraper.rb, and then I'm just going to say listings equals scraper.run, and I have to wait a second. Okay, so that finished, so now we should be able to say listings.count and get 3,000. Listings.first.neighborhood, let's just do a quick sanity check there. Willowbrook, okay, so let's do listings.map and neighborhood. If this works, I'm expecting there to be quite a bit more nils, and that does seem to be the case. So let's do .unique, okay, .count. So there's 100 neighborhoods in here, and I don't see any weird arrays or anything like that. That kind of makes sense. Let's see if let's do .compact.count, and I think it should be 99. Let's do a couple more quick checks here. Let's count the number of uniques. Dot map and okay, that did not do what I wanted. Listings dot map and neighborhood. There are not 3,000 nil ones. Dot select and nil dot count. So a good chunk of them are nil. So there's a few things we could do about that, but I don't know that I will. I suspect that in some cases, the formatting of the text in our neighborhoods file doesn't match exactly what people are typically entering on Craigslist. But for the purposes of this, I'm not going to get that detailed. I'm pretty happy with running a command and getting like what seemed to be about 1,800 pretty good data points out of the neighborhood there. So that's pretty cool. I do want to do a quick check on just like a random listing and make sure that I'm not crazy. So I'm going to do like 902. And I just wanted to check the actual neighborhood in here if it's possible. Let's do puts underscore. Well, I actually do puts the listing dot markup, right, and then puts that. So and then so I have Williamsburg, and then let's do listing dot neighborhood Williamsburg. I'm just gonna do a few more of these, just like kind of random. Prospect Heights. Let's look at the markup on that one. I kind of wanted to see one where I pulled out something crazy, but I might not be able to. At any rate, they do match, so that's good. So anyway, I think I'm going to have to wrap this up there. That's pretty much it for the scraping bit. I think what I'm going to do in the next episode is potentially just mix in some extra data I've been kind of pondering on this a little bit, and I think that for analysis purposes, it might be kind of cool to just have some other random data that's relevant to like the different neighborhoods and so on and so forth. The other thing I'm going to do is show you how to just export all this data into a CSV, and that's going to be pretty much where we wrap this up. So maybe like 1 or 2 more episodes is what I'm thinking, but you never know. Sometimes I have crazy ideas once we go off camera, so who knows. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will talk to you next time.